So, Werner, you told me that when you began this film, or when maybe Raphael first came to you with this idea, that you didn't have any funding for it, you just wanted to get in and do it. Can you talk about that kind of compulsion that you had to just start making this film?
Well, I'm not compulsive, but I understand if something comes with real vehemence, I have to take action. I cannot duck in the trenches. We started very quickly. There was no preparation or not much preparation. It was like a road movie, and I financed it out of my pocket. Later, the Sloan Foundation stepped in when I was almost done shooting, and so it's one of those films that can be done fairly easily, and I didn't need much preparation because many of the ideas also have been floating around in my head, and also the kind of selection of scientists and labs didn't come from me but from Raphael Juste. We just organized it into a West Coast voyage and then an East Coast road trip. And it may sound odd to you because many of you are filmmakers here. I did not meet anyone who is on screen more than 1 hour in my entire life, except a few exceptions, of course, Raphael Juste and very few others, but some of them, like, for example, Corey Bartman and her husband, I think Richard Axel, I met 30 or 40 minutes only on camera. We quickly put up the tripod, started to film, and I basically knew what they were doing. And I have never met them before and never after. So these things have to be done just on the run.
And can you talk about your interviewing technique?
No interviews, no, that's what journalists do. I'm a poet. Yes, it's not funny, I'm a poet. And of course there's documentary films that are part of journalism, which is legitimate and okay, but I've been saying it for a long time. If you really want to go into something deeper, into something that illuminates you, that gives you entrance into some deeper stratum of truth, you have to divorce yourself from journalism. You have to get away from journalism. Be a poet, be somebody who is just burning inside. That's what I do. There are no interviews. I had never written catalogue of questions. It's just my curiosity.
So, for instance, Jamie Daves, who's here, when you were interviewing Jamie,
No, not interviewing.
when you're having a poetic conversation with Jamie, you asked him about dancing with hummingbirds.
Yes, and the answer was so instantly, yes, he says. And then he starts to think about dancing with a hummingbird. And for a moment I thought, what should I say next? And something shouted inside of myself, shut up. So I shut up and just waited and let Jamie dream about his dance with a hummingbird. And it's one of my very, very favorite moments in the entire film, just because I shut up and because I had no further questions. So you just let it happen. And of course I put some music on it, which is based on Schubert's Notturno. And all of a sudden you have a moment where you look deep into the soul of a human being. And in such short time, it's I think 7 or 8 minutes with Jamie Daves, and all of a sudden you have the feeling and you know you're looking inside the heart of a man. And that's what we should do. And we should not just have a checklist of questions. That's why I'm so vehemently against the term interviews, because that's journalism.
You mentioned in your introduction that we have one of the human rights specialists that you interviewed in the audience. Can you talk about your interest in the human rights side of brain research?
It came while doing the film, and at the very beginning, at the very beginning, I didn't know how far the questions were going into ethical questions and questions of our own agency. But of course it started to dawn on me very quickly when I, for example, spoke to the Israeli scientist Uri Hasson at, I think, where was it, Princeton University. And I can see with my own eyes how he starts to read sort of storytelling. How would you continue the story? And you can read it and you can define it. And I said to myself, my goodness, what happens if some rogue CIA or whatever other rogue element is going to implant something in my brain and discover everything, all dark secrets. You should keep dark secrets dark and secret. And so of course that's a big question, and I'm asking myself, even if we have a new human right articulated, it will only give us a certain amount of protection, because we have the Geneva Convention, and still there are things going on in actual wars that should not happen according to that convention. And we do have certain things, a ban of landmines, which is almost universally adopted. Significantly so, the United States is not participating. So there will be always actors who are staying outside, and they may do funny things with landmines. I don't like the idea of landmines, and no individual human being on this planet would like the idea of landmines. And yet you cannot get rid completely.
Let me take a couple questions from the audience. Here's a hand up right here.
Yeah. Thank you very much for a wonderful film. You said when you went at your subject, though, you seem to have put an emphasis on the physiological side. It seems that in our society, thought is also being, attention is directed to social media and social media algorithms. Did you make a conscious decision not to go in that direction? Is it something completely separate? Did you even consider it?
Yeah, why didn't I go into the algorithms and things that are going on in social media? I'm not on social media. I do not like to be part of it, and that's why I don't have a cell phone, for example, because I like to derive my nexus and my understanding of reality in a different way, by, for example, traveling on foot, or by reading. I mean reading books, not reading tweets. And understanding a landscape not through a GPS system, but by looking at the formation of a landscape and reading the essence of it. So it's a different way for me, and the social media and the algorithms that dominate it are vile and debased and depraved, and we have to be very, very careful how we are handling it.
Hi, here's a woman in the red.
Hi, Werner. I was curious about the mind itself, like intentive mind, meditating mind, the mind as a tool and the weapon itself. You know, like when we really focus and do something. Did you want to?
Why don't you?
Thank you. Hi. I was asking a question about the mind itself
mind as a focus tool, mind as an intention tool. Is anyone measuring intention? Or Maharishi effect about meditating people, you know, not just the science towards the mind, but the mind itself and how it maybe births the world.
Well, we don't know what the mind is, we don't know what a thought is, and we do not know what consciousness is, although in Eastern philosophy and religions there's a claim to understand what consciousness is. I doubt that anyone can give an answer from that side either, and I don't know about meditation because I do not meditate. You see, I rather meditating means to empty your mind, to have some sort of nothingness in you and calm down. The techniques I have no clear idea, but I personally prefer people who, for example, read, get informations, come up with a coherent idea, and have a conversation with me then. So, and by the way, there are these ideas floating around that through meditation we can create world peace. It's not going to happen like that.
All right, take one more question right here.
What do you think?
I'll repeat.
Can you speak up, please?
What do you think the relationship between thinking and cinema is? And additionally, do you think that a true stream of consciousness film is possible?
What do you think the relationship between thinking and cinema is, and do you think a true stream of consciousness film is possible?
That's a deep question. We would need a few days to debate it. But I think cinema itself is in a delicate relationship with ideas, almost a contrast. Ideas are normally not very good for movies. Movies are functioning differently, and they have their own dynamic, their own laws, their own storytelling, their own flow of consciousness. Yes, some of it is possible, and I have done a few things like that. A film like Fata Morgana, very early of my films, that was done in 1967. Your parents were not even born yet at that time. So, and I have done some wild stuff like The Wild Blue Yonder. It's not a stream of consciousness because I imposed a story upon footage that is normally incompatible with each other, and yet I shape it into a story. So there's a stream of images and storytelling. Consciousness, I would be careful, but that's a huge subject, and will never come to an end in our discourse.
So Werner, you've always been a writer. You published a new novel this year. You have a memoir that just came out in Germany, will eventually be making its way into English. What can we expect from that memoir?
Well, it's not an autobiography. It's more some sort of how can I say, origins of ideas, for example. And all of a sudden there's poetry in it. I have all of a sudden interspersed 5 ballads of the little soldier, because I've been with child soldiers in Honduras, Nicaragua, and been on some commando raid with them. And all of a sudden there are some very tragic, although it's in prose, but it's like ballads. And instead of talking much about Akere, the Wrath of God, which I have done a lot before, I speak more about a man, an African revolutionary, John Okello, who in the early 1960s, as a very young man, 27 years old, declared himself field marshal on the island of Zanzibar, and with a ragtag army of maybe 30 or so overthrew the Sultan of the island. And he used to deliver completely mad speeches over radio, and so absolutely strange and threatening. And in the media you would see something once in a while under miscellaneous, a few lines. But the speeches were so incredible that Aguirre's kind of monologues are somehow a distant echo of John Okello. And I was in contact with him through writing. I tried to find him in Uganda. He disappeared and was apparently murdered by Idi Amin, so I came too late. And I was in trouble because in northern Uganda, where he came from, police was very, very suspicious about me, and I better left very, very quickly, because you better don't end up in jail there.
Sounds fair. Werner, I speak on behalf of so many people in gratitude for the films and the books and the ideas that you've brought us over the years. It's thrilling to know that there's something new that we'll be able to get our hands on soon, and we just look forward to having you back at this festival again and again for all your future films. So thank you for being here.